A very good morning, dear children. Today we are going to be learning the last part of the chapter, that is inside the atom. In the last class we finished with the first 4 points we have completed. Today we will be looking at isotopes as well as nuclear reactors. Okay, so we will start with isotopes. What are isotopes? We know that when we were learning about atoms, we learned 2 major concepts. One was atomic mass number and one was atomic number. So atomic mass number was what? The number of protons and the number of neutrons, and atomic number is number of protons. However, there are elements in nature which have same atomic number but different mass number. Okay, so these elements which have same atomic number but different mass number are called as isotopes. What does that mean? Let's take an example. Carbon. Okay, so we have carbon 12, carbon 13 and carbon 14. Carbon 12, carbon 13 and carbon 14, they are said to be the isotopes of carbon. Okay, why are they called to be isotopes? Let's look at what is written down. Carbon 12 means that it has 6 neutrons and 6 protons. Okay, carbon 13 has 7 neutrons and 6 protons. Carbon 14 has 8 neutrons and 6 protons. Now if you have paid attention, you will understand everywhere the proton number is the same. It is 6, 6 and 6. But if you look at the neutron number, it is 6, 7 and 8. Okay, which means that proton number is same, means atomic number is the same. Okay, but because neutrons are changing, neutron number is changing, the atomic mass number is changing. That is when you say that those substances which have same atomic number but different mass number are called as isotopes. We have normally seen this. How do you write? Okay, we know that you have, whenever you are representing an element, you have a superscript and a subscript. Superscript means the number which is written on top and subscript means the number which is written down. Okay, so superscript will tell you the mass number. Mass number means protons plus neutrons together. Okay, and subscript will be the number of protons. That is why if you see on the right hand side, it's written 12C6, 13C6, 14C6. Everywhere, as I told you, proton number is same. That is why 666 is written. So this 6 which you see, it is the proton number or the atomic number. And it's 12, 13, 14 is the atomic mass number, that is proton plus neutron. Okay. Now here this is a table where you have on the left, the first column is that of the isotope. So you have 12 carbon, 13 carbon and 14 carbon. Okay. The next column is mass number. As I told you, mass number will always be the superscript. That is a number which is written on top will always be the mass number. So here we have 12 carbon. So 12 is written as a superscript. So that itself becomes the mass number. Okay. Then 13 carbon. So 13 becomes the mass number and 14 carbon. So 14 becomes the mass number. Okay, now here the next column is talking about proton number. As I told you, proton number is the same. It is 6 for all 3 of them. So you write it 6, 6 and 6. Now, if in case such a question comes for your exam where you have been given the mass number, you have been given the proton number and they are asking you to find out the neutron number. What do? You just subtract the superscript and the subscript. Whenever you subtract superscript and the subscript, you get the neutron number. Okay, so here if you see the first one for 12 carbon, mass number is 12, proton number is 6. If I subtract them, I get 6 as being the neutron number. For 13 carbon, mass number is 13, proton number is 6. you subtract them to get the neutron number, that is 7. Mass number for 14 carbon is 14, proton number is 6, you subtract them to get the neutron number of 8. You can recheck it by adding it also. Proton and neutron, if you're adding, you should get the mass number. Okay, I hope this is clear. Another example is the isotope of hydrogen. Now, isotope of hydrogen, all three isotopes have a different name given. Let's look at the first one. The hydrogen which has one proton but no neutron is called as protium. One proton and no neutron is protium. Deuterium is the hydrogen which has one proton and one neutron, and tritium has one proton and two neutrons. When we talk about water, we say it is H2O. That H is protium. Okay. Same thing if in case I have deuterium in it, that is instead of protium, that is H2O, if I have deuterium, that is 2H2O, that water is said to be heavy water. Okay. So three isotopes of hydrogen: protium, deuterium and tritium. So this is a table which we are going to solve so that we understand everything properly. The first column is the isotope, second is proton number, third is neutron number. Okay. Now the isotope given here is 1H1. Okay. Whenever you want to find out proton number, always remember it is a subscript. The subscript will always be the proton number and the superscript will be proton plus neutron. Okay, so here proton number I am supposed to find. What is the subscript given? The subscript given is 1. So I will write 1 as my proton number. And you want to find out neutron number. Okay, to find out neutron number, you have to subtract superscript and the subscript. That means 1 minus 1 will give me 0. Okay, you will understand this, don't worry. Second one is proton number is 1, neutron number is 1. I need to write it or I need to represent it in the form of an isotope. So proton number is given as 1, so that will automatically, without doing anything, that will become my subscript. What will be my superscript? My superscript or my mass number will be proton plus neutron, that is 1 plus 1, 2. So this will be written as 2H1. How did you get this 2? You've added proton and neutron because this superscript is atomic mass number. Mass number is proton plus neutron. So 1 plus 1 I did, that I got 2. And my subscript is nothing but the proton number directly. So proton number they gave as 1, so that as it is you're going to write. Same thing we'll do for the next one also. Proton number given is 1 and neutron number given is 2. Okay, so proton number automatically becomes my subscript and my superscript will be addition of the two numbers. So it's going to be 3H1. 3, how did I get? Mass number it is, that is proton plus neutron, 1 plus 2, that is 3, and subscript will be the proton number, so that is 1. Okay, now the next is they have given example of chlorine. So you have 35 Cl17 and 37 Cl17. So what will be the proton number? Proton number is the subscript. So 17 is given here. 17 will be the proton number. Okay. How do you find out neutron number? You only have to subtract the 2. 35 minus 17 will give me the neutron number. You can check it. If you add it up, you should get what is there as a superscript. Okay. So 17 as it is will be my subscript. How do I get my superscript? I have to add these two numbers. If I add these two numbers, I'm going to get 35, which means it is correct. Same thing I'll do down also. 37 Cl17 is given. So subscript will be my proton number, that is 17. And how do I find neutron number? I only have to subtract these two together. That is 37 minus 17. When I do, I get 20. I can recheck it again. Proton number is a subscript, 17, 17. Superscript is the addition of the two numbers, that is 20 plus 17, 37. So this is how you find out the atomic mass number, atomic number, number of protons, number of neutrons. So by representing it in the form of a symbol and the superscript and the subscript, you get a lot of information about the isotope. Okay, but why are we learning the isotope? Because isotopes are being used in various fields and it has proved to be very useful to humans. Okay, let's see that one by one. First thing where isotopes are used they are used in nuclear reactors. Now nuclear reactor is something which you will be learning as I showed you in the index. We will be learning it. For now, just understand what is happening in this. You're going to start with the left. You have N written. N is nothing but it is a neutron. Okay. What is a neutron doing? The neutron is getting bombarded with an atom of uranium, that is U it is written. Bombarded means that you are trying to combine the neutron and the uranium atom. When you combine neutron and uranium atom, the uranium atom becomes unstable. And because it is becoming unstable, what happens? It quickly divides itself into two atoms. One of krypton, that is Kr, and one of barium, that is Ba. And along with these two atoms, it gives rise to three other new neutrons. Okay, now what is going to happen? This is just one reaction. The three neutrons which are releasing from this one reaction will further go and bombard three new uranium atoms, which will give me 9 new neutrons. 9 neutrons will further react to give me 27 neutrons, and this reaction becomes in the form of a chain and it is uncontrolled reaction. Okay, this such kind of reaction is called as nuclear fission. These reactions which are chain reactions give rise to large amount of heat which can be used in the nuclear reactors. We will learn that. For now, just understand such kind of reaction is called as a nuclear fission reaction. Radioactive isotopes are also used in medical. That is, cobalt-60 is a radioactive substance which is used in radiotherapy. When we were learning the second chapter of health and diseases, in that you have learned about radiotherapy, where radiations are used to kill the tumor cells. This radiation, for radiations to move and to kill the tumor, you can actually use a radioactive substance like cobalt-60. So this cobalt-60, the radiations that come from it, when you are focusing it on the part where there is cancer or tumor, it is seen that it shrinks the tumor or it reduces the size of the tumor. So it helps in curing or treating cancer. Radioactive element is also used for treating of goiter. Okay, now we know that there is thyroid gland in human. Many a times when iodine is deficient or when iodine is less in the human body, this thyroid gland, it swells up. Okay, as you can see in the picture, there is the throat is swollen. That's mainly because the thyroid gland it swells up. For this, you can use the treatment by using you can use radioactive iodine. What is done is, the person or the patient is asked to consume or ingest a capsule. Now this capsule has radioactive iodine in it. When he ingests the capsule, the radioactive iodine, it gets absorbed from the walls of the stomach and it enters into the bloodstream. Now thyroid gland needs iodine. Okay, so what it will do, it will absorb the radioactive iodine. And this radioactive iodine, which is absorbed by the thyroid gland, because of its radiations, can help to kill the extra cells or can help to kill the cells which are increasing in number. Thereby it helps to treat goiter. Okay. Radioactivity is also, or isotopes are also used to check if there is any leakage in the underground pipes. Now here, if you see in this picture, you have a blue colored line moving. So that blue pipe, it's actually the underground pipe. Okay. Now what they do is to check if there is any leakage, they pass a fluid through the pipe, and this fluid contains the radioactive isotope sodium-24. So sodium-24 is allowed to pass through the pipe. Now as it's passing through the pipe, obviously it is going to give out radiations. So everywhere where the pipe is intact or where there is no leakage, the radiations coming through it will be normal. But when it reaches the part where there is leakage, the fluid is leaking out. So what is going to happen? Because the liquid is leaking out, the amount of sodium is going to get accumulated in that one part, or it is going to be high in that part. So when the radiations are detected, you will find that wherever the pipe is leaking, the radiations are more. So it is understood that in that region the pipe is leaking. So this can be helped in checking leakages in the underground pipe. Isotopes are also used for preservation of foodstuffs. Foodstuffs, when they are radiated, that means whenever radiations are passed through the foodstuffs, what happens is that the fungus and the bacteria that is growing on that foodstuff, it gets killed. Okay, so what happens, the foodstuff, it remains fresh for a long period of time. There are pictures where you can see the strawberry or the foodstuff which was untreated. It has fungus growing within 5 days of harvesting. Whereas when you're radiating it or when you're passing radiations through it, it remains fresh even after 3 weeks of harvesting. Same thing is shown on the right hand side. If you see there is fungus growing and the foodstuff is getting spoiled, where radiations were not used, and where radiations were used, the foodstuff remains fresh for a long period of time. So radiations of isotopes can be used for maintaining of preservation, or it can help to improve the shelf life of foodstuffs. Carbon dating. You must have heard about fossils, and you must have also read various reports or articles where people age the fossil, or people talk about the age of the fossil, that this fossil is of 3000 years old or 4000 years old or 5000 years old. How do they do that? How do they age the fossil, or how do they consider or understand the age of the fossil? For that you use the radioactive carbon, or they basically use a technique called as carbon dating. Now when a living organism is alive, okay, or living organisms, they normally absorb carbon 14 from the atmosphere. Now carbon 14 is a radioactive component. So what are we all doing? We are all absorbing carbon 14 from the atmosphere. So in our body there is a ratio of normal carbon and isotope of carbon or radioactive carbon. So there is going to be a fixed ratio of C12 and C14 in our body. However, when one dies or when there is death of a living organism, this carbon 14 is not taken anymore into the body. So what is happening? Because carbon 14 is not taken into the body, the ratio of C12 and C14, it starts varying, or it starts changing, and C14, it starts decaying in the body. So when a fossil is obtained, people check how much of carbon has got decayed from the body, and they also check the ratio of C12 and C14, from which they will be able to understand how old the fossil is. They will be able to determine the age of the fossil. Nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactor is a machine that generates electricity by using atomic energy. The first nuclear reactor in India is in Mumbai, which is called as the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, which uses the nuclear reactor to generate electricity. This is a reaction which we had seen earlier, correct? I told you that neutron is bombarded with uranium. Because it becomes unstable, it divides into krypton, barium and 3 new neutrons, and these neutrons which are generated, they keep bombarding the other atoms, and this leads to a big chain reaction. And I told you that this one reaction gives a lot of heat. Okay, this concept that the reaction gives rise to heat or generates heat is actually used in the nuclear reactor. Let's look at this. So On the left hand side you find there are these orange and red colored region. This is exactly a reactor vessel. That means this is a place where you have the bombardment taking place, and this is a place where you have the reactions taking place. Because of the reaction, what is happening? Heat is getting generated. This heat is actually used to boil the water which is in the blue colored substance. So if you see the orange or the red colored part, that is a reactor vessel, is connected, one part of it is connected with the blue area. So what is happening? The blue part actually has the water in it, and because of the heat that is generating from the reaction, that heat is used to boil the water. This water which is boiling, it gets converted into steam, and that steam is used to rotate the turbine, which gets connected to the generator, helps in functioning of the generator. It generates electricity, and that electricity is given to the city. Okay, so this is how you have the entire nuclear reactor working, where you're using an atomic reaction, you're using a chemical reaction, and from that reaction you are generating electricity. Okay, now as I already told you, if you remember, that this is a chain reaction and it is very difficult to control it. But if this reaction goes on continuously, it will become so intense that there will be a point when we won't be able to control it. So it is very important that we control it step by step. So here if you see the part of the reactor vessel, you have control rods written. Control rods are nothing but they are rods of boron or other elements, where these rods, they absorb certain neutrons. Okay, so when I am bombarding one neutron with the uranium, I told you that 3 neutrons are generated. If you want to control the reaction, you have to absorb 1 neutron or two neutrons from it, so that the reaction remains under control. So control pods are normally being used to control the nuclear reaction, so that it doesn't go beyond, or it does not become too intense. Similarly, heavy water is also used. Heavy water, as I told you, is nothing but the water which has deuterium in it. Okay, so heavy water is a moderator. Moderator means it makes sure that the entire reaction is happening in a normal level. Okay, I hope this is clear. Thank you.